Welcome to 24 Hours of PASS, 20 years of PASS, the past learnings and the future vision. So we are excited that you could join us today for Jose's session, the Azure Database Lessons Learned from the Trenches. This 24 Hours of PASS consists of 24 consecutive live webinars. These are delivered by expert speakers from the PASS community. The sessions will be recorded and posted online after the event. You will receive an email letting you know when these will be available. My name is Anu Natarajan. I'm a data and AI consultant and a past community leader. I organize the local events and SQL Saturday events in Wellington, New Zealand. So I have a few introductory slides before I hand over the reins to Jose. Jose, can you move to the next slide?
Yep.
So if you require any technical assistance, please type your request into the question pane located on the right side of your screen and I'll be there to assist you. So this question pane is also where you can ask for questions throughout the session, and feel free to enter your questions anytime. And once we get into the Q&A portion of the session, I'll read out your questions aloud to the speaker. You'll be able to zoom in on the presentation content by using the zoom button that is located on the top of the presentation window. And also please note there will be a short evaluation at the end of the session which will pop up after the webinar ends in your web browser. Your feedback is really important for us for the future events. So please take a moment to complete this. Great, next slide, Jose. So I would like to take a moment to thank our sponsors, Microsoft and Intel. The staging of 24 hours of PASS wouldn't be possible without their generous support, and they are the reason this event is available free of charge. So if you like to learn more about Microsoft or Intel and sign up for information on how they can help you, please visit the sponsors page on the 24 hours of PASS website. Next slide, Jose. So keep learning all the year along with PASS. So visit pass.org and check out all the free educational resources available for PASS members. So also don't forget that PASS Summit 2019 will be happening on November 5th in Seattle, Washington. Head over to passsummit.com and register today. The next slide, Jose. So this 24 hours of PASS session is presented by Jose. So Jose currently works as a SQL support escalation engineer and a subject matter expert in Azure SQL Database at Microsoft Spain. With over 15 plus years of experience in SQL Server environments, like both administration as well as database development, he has worked as project manager for large global retail companies developing projects using different Microsoft technologies. Next slide, Jose. And without any further delay, here is Jose with Azure SQL Database, the lessons learned from the trenches.
Okay, and thank you so much. Let me present myself. I don't know if you could see my webcam. Hello, this is me.
Yes, yes,
I know that I know the very star or actor star. So, but this is me. So I cannot change anything more. Okay. So thank you so much for attending this session. I appreciate the time that you are worldwide. Thank you so much for this. Let's go to the session. So what is the main purpose of this presentation? As you know, as support engineer, we used to see the bad things, not the good things. Based on the experience with the bad things, Microsoft support engineer, we used to create this type of session called experience from the trenches or lesson learned, that I would like to share with you two main things. I have a lot, okay, but I think that two things that, because normally it's more than when you are migrating the database from your local on-premise or from IaaS to SQL Azure. I would like to show you what is the best things, what is the lesson learned that I have found in connecting to the SQL Azure. Okay, we are going to cover 4 main goals. It's the configuration, about what is the best practice about the configuration, or what is the things that we found that is an error, or the main pain topics that we have. About the prevention, means that how to prevent issues. We are going to cover several things, and also I'm going to show you several examples about how to prevent problems, okay? And also improve the connection. Other things will be how to improve, or what is the main pain topics that we have found execution and running some queries, running in application side, okay? In this case, will be in C#. And also we are going to cover several things about monitoring. And the second topics that I would like to show you, it's about a real case that when I was on call, I received a call from a customer that he had a problem, a performance problem. The application is not running well. Okay, I'm going to show you special tips and tricks how to identify this problem. Okay, I'm going to cover the topics that I go through in order to identify what was the problem. Okay, so this is the agenda, and let's go to with the topics. Okay, so these are tricks about the connectivity. Before to go this, I think that is very important about how the connection work or connections work. So let me always explain that when you are connecting to the SQL Azure, you are going to always to connect to the port 1433. Remember that SQL Azure is an endpoint, it's not a server. So you don't have any server. You have an endpoint with the address server.database.windows.net, and all the connection will go through this one. But the most important thing here is because all the connection will go through the proxy. So that means that you don't have direct access to your server. Okay, all the connection will go to the proxy. This proxy will protect the connection, check the firewall rules, validate everything, the night of services, etc. Once the connection that we have here, we are going to have another phase. It's an authentication method that in SQL Azure, we have 2 authentication methods. One is SQL login, the normal SQL login, and also we have a new authentication model that is called Azure Active Directory. Okay, so we don't have Windows authentication. So this is the main point that we need to change in our code. If we want to use Windows authentication, if you want to use this, you need to use Azure Active Directory, and don't worry, there is no need to recreate all the user, the password that you have in your Windows Active Directory. We have a tool that migrate or synchronize the data every, let's say, 5 minutes from your Active Directory on premise to Azure Active Directory. So you don't need to do anything else. Just only use your application. As you know, in SQL Azure, we have all the languages that we have. We have Java, we have PHP, Ado, Python, Ruby. So you could use everything. The most important thing is to use the drivers. Okay, but even using the SQL driver, the SQL Server driver, it's not enough. So one other thing that is very important about in terms of security and also for you learning, it's about how the connection work when you are running inside of Azure. Let's say when you have your application in Azure, you are connecting to the SQL. So what happened internally? Okay, as you know, you are going to connect to the server database windows.net. Your application tried to connect to using the port 143. And this connection will go directly to our proxy. Okay, we have a bunch of machines that it's listen to the connection or listen to the connection and validate the connection. When everything is fine, the user and password, etc., is validated. This proxy control ring will send an email to the driver. Sorry, an alert or a redirection to the driver that please the next connection try to use a direct connection to the tenant ring. Okay, the tenant ring is the bunch of machines that we have that, for example, here, every time that you create one database, this database is running as a primary copy of the data, is running in this server, but you have 3 copies of the data that is running in another servers, okay? But at the end, all the connection will be established against the primary, okay? This is very important because all the connections need first to the proxy control ring, and after it, you are going to connect to the tenant ring. So that means that every time that you connect to the SQL inside of Azure, you are going to have 2 connections. Once to the port 1433, another one will be 11 200. So this is very important. You could change this. You could change this behavior in your server. You could say, okay, I would like to have the redirection, or I will like connect directly to a proxy, and no more. What happened? And this is an example about a network trace about the connection, but I'm going to go to the next slide. What happened when, as I mentioned, when the connection is encrypted? Let me explain one thing, because I have found several things, several questions working as support engineer that most probably you know. In SQL Azure, you have one option that is called service endpoint. It's a very common questions that we have from the people that are using SQL. That when you establish a server endpoint, you need to establish what is the VNet and the subnet that it's allowed to connect to the SQL. It's a very common issue that people think that enable the service endpoint, all the connection will go directly, or we go directly using the subnet at the VNet. Not, but this is not true. This is not true because always the connection will go using the proxy, and the proxy is a public endpoint. So you still need the internet connection. Okay. So then most probably you're asking right now, or you're wondering right now, that what is the reason in this case about the service endpoint? The service endpoint will be just only a way to validate the IPs. For the reason, when we are validating the IPs, we have 3 servers. We have 3 options. You have allow Azure services. That means that any server that you have in running in the same data center that you have your server will be able to try to connect, not to connect, try to connect, because you need the validation, the authentication in order to connect. Some services that we have in Azure needs to have this allow Azure services on, but other services that we have, there is no need, because they could create a VNets. Okay. Other things, if you are connecting from outside of Azure, you are going to establish the security using the typical IP ranges. And as I mentioned before, the IP ranges of the subnets called service endpoint. It's very important also in this presentation. You could click here, and you have several other options called that is token. So for these tools, this option that you have, that is automatic tool that you don't need to have an user that is able to interact with the operating system or to make login. We have a special, let's say, managed account that is more or less is token, that it's possible to run applications to connect the database just only with a token and a password. Also, as I mentioned, all the connection is encrypted. So this encrypted using the certificates that we have in this proxy. So it's very important about it. So other things that we have, it's about how the connection work outside Azure. It's very simple. Your application, you are connected to your server, all the connections gone through the proxy, and the proxy try to connect to the tenant ring, and the tenant ring reply through the proxy to the client. So this is very important, because also when you have this connection, please remember that you are going to have, let's say, a 10 milliseconds of delay in this connection. It's very important, because when you compare the connection when on-premise and in SQL Azure, you have a small milliseconds of delay, because you need an extra connection that is called using the proxy. So first that we review right now the main topics about the connectivity, let me show you what is the main groups working as support engineers about some tricks. Okay, we have 4 about the configuration. I'm going to discuss with you or share with you the main topics about the prevention. It's very important. It's very important about 2 things. We are going to cover the connection stream parameters and also the retry logic. We are going to explain what is the retry logic. Okay, but please remember, Microsoft. We are going. The service is in our. The service will be maintained by Microsoft. So that's mean that every time to time we need to update something you server. Okay, in your database. So that's mean that for a specific moment of time, no more than 1 minute, you are going to you are not going to be able to connect to the database because we are doing something no more than 1 minute, 30 seconds, 20 seconds. But for this reason, it's very, very, very important that you code have the retry logic. The retry logic is no more than retry the connection when you receive an error in your connection, no more than this. About the execution, it's very important. It's very important about the command timeout. It's this is very important because we saw that several situations that the customer choose a database tier that the capacity of the database tier is not the good thing or its fit in the performance for the application. So in this case, if you want to save your money and you want to use this database, it's very important about the command timeout. Use the command timeout that you think that this operation will retake, okay? And the last one will be about the monitor. I'm going to show you several things how to monitor your connection, and also I'm going to show you one thing that we have in C# in order to review the connection every time without anything else that you code. So what is the best thing about the configuration? Okay, for me, working on cases and server requests is very important. Please always try to update the DNS. We've found several cases that the DNS was not it's incorrect, and the customer was not able to connect. It's very important to know that if you are connecting from outside Azure, it's very important to have the port 1433 open as outbound, not inbound. It's just only outbound. And if you are working also from Azure, it's very important to have open as outbound again this port, as I mentioned before, about the redirection. This is the port that we are going to use for the redirection. It's very important about, as much probably you know, what that means is network group security. Okay, it's very important to have the configuration to have configured correctly. Other option that we have is the antivirus, Windows Firewall. Also, it's very important about contact when you have some problems, contact with your ASP. So that means that some ASP normally drop or block the port 1433 as a bound. It's very, very common to have this situation when you are connecting outside Azure. Okay. Also, remember that when you create a virtual machine in Azure, you are going to have a public IP. But what happens if this machine is restarted? Most probably you are going to have a new public IP. It's very important to, when you are not able to connect, review this. Also, you have the option to request to have a fixed IP. And finally, other things that we found when we are using the Azure application, or when you just only export or migrate your database, it's about the orphan and logins. That means that most probably you know, when you create a user, if you use the login, this login, it's maintaining the master, okay? So if you just only export the data, migrate the data to SQL Azure, just only database, please remember that if this user are associated with logins, you need to create also the logins in the server. So about prevention, I have a bunch of recommendations that working in many cases about connectivity of phone. I'm going to highlight several. The best thing is, please try to use try to specify the protocol TCP and the port, okay? Because normally all the drivers that we have, when try to connect to the SQL, as you know, we have several protocols. We have name pipes, we have TCP, we have NAM sharp, we have several. If you specify this TCP, you are going to save milliseconds because you explicitly specify to the connection, please use TCP. Other thing is about the connection timeout. Remember that in Azure, connecting inside or outside Azure, at the end, the server needs to go through a gateway, and this server will be located in another place, not will be in the same VNet, in the same subnet that you have your application. So they need to go through several endpoints, several hubs, several networking stuff in order to reach the server. So it's very important to have the connection time not equal 30. It's obvious, but working in Azure that we have every time, every day, every minute, we have a new option. Please try to update the latest version of the driver, because also in these drivers, it's more often it's these drivers are aware about SQL Azure database connection topics or stuff or aware. So it's very important, please. Because if you are using the previous drivers, we have many cases that the driver is not aware about the different things, etc. Other things that is very important, use the contained user state logins. Contained user is no more than create a user inside of the database, okay, without associate with logins. It's doing this, you are going to save some milliseconds because the validation of the user and password will be directly to the user database instead to go to the master, validate the user, and give the permissions to go. Okay. Also, if you are moving your database, having the contained user is very important about it. So other two things that is very important is about the connection pooling. It's very important, please enable the connection pooling because you are going to save time in your connections. I'm going to show you an example right now in a couple of minutes. Also, it's very important about multiple active result set equals false. So because I don't know if you know what that means, but that means that every connection we are going to have more the other connections, other sessions. So more than around 4 or 5. We found in several cases our customers have some problems to disconnect the connection, and we found that every time that you have this problem, at the end you are going to have your connection in idle state plus the connection that has been established with the result set. So please try to use equal false. Other recommendation that we have before go to the several demos is to please open and close the connection as far as possible. Okay, it's very important because, as you know, if you establish the connection at the beginning of your application and you just only close the connection at the end of the connection, you are going to have several problems because our gateway, when you establish the connection and the connection is idle for more than 30 minutes, we are going to close the connection without any other action. So you could after these 30 minutes, you could see that you are not able to connect again. So you need to establish the connection again. Okay. About the retry logic, as I mentioned, Entity Framework .NET, it's contained right now several options, several methods to try to establish the connection. As I mentioned, try to avoid the connection. And other two particular things that I would like to mention is about the connection retry interval and retry count. Suppose that you have a connection and problem, the connection has been disconnected. Using this correct number, you are going to, the application will be automatically connect without doing anything because the driver retry the connection using these two parameters. Please review this number because it's very important in terms to avoid some problems in terms of connection. And finally, try to use the try catch. It's very important. We found many cases that the code don't have this try catch, and for any specific reason they have some problems and they are leaving a lot of idle connections. Let me go to a demo about. I have this application. It's written in C#, and I'm going to go to this one about the connection pooling. Okay, I'm going to establish here. Okay, so I'm going to run this application. As you could see, I'm connecting from Spain, Madrid, to West Europe. As you could see, one second. As you could see, this is the connection that I have using the connection without connection pooling. As you can see, more or less, I established the connection every, let's say, 1 second, more or less. I have the connection. This code is very simple. Is open the connection using the retry logic, run something, and disconnect. Okay, as you could see, the connection is in this way. So what happened when I open I use the connection pooling? As you can see, at the beginning of the first connection will take some time, but at the end the connection is much faster. Okay, because the connection is cached. Okay, it's very important because when the connection is cached, several things about the socket, about several things, it's cached. So you are going to have a better time every time that you connect to the SQL. Okay, so as you can see, it's very simple. This code. I don't want to spend more time here. It's just only I'm going to also share with you these details. As you could see, I ran this code. I used to use the stopwatch in order to review the time, and as you could see, it's just only run a select count from logins. Okay, so this is very important. Again, about the retry logic, it's very important. Okay. So let's go back to the presentation. Okay, and I'm going to the next slide. The next slide is, again, it's about the multiple things, the multiple recommendations that we have. Okay, it's obvious. We have many cases that our customer use the select star. It's obvious that please don't use this because select star means that retrieve all the rows. Suppose that you have blob fields that contains a lot of data. Okay, so at the end means that you are going to download gigabytes of data. Okay, please avoid to use. Just only specify the correct number of columns and the correct number of rows. The other things that we have about, for example, in SQL Azure, we don't have a distributed transaction. It's possible to use this in another way, okay, but you don't have distributed transaction. Distributed transaction is no more than try to update two tables from two different databases. Okay, we have an workaround to do it in SQL Azure, but in managed instance it's possible. But right now, in managed instance it's possible using the same instance, but not in two different instances. Other things that's very important about the execution, it's about the cross queries. Cross queries is the following. In SQL Azure, once you have established the connection against one database, if you want to retrieve something from another database, from another table, another database, that is not possible when you run the command select star from database one.dbo.table. Okay, this is the normal, the natural one that we have. Okay, in this case, you need to use external tables. We have several issues about the performance, okay, because we need to retrieve all the data using the external tables. We have several articles in our blog explaining this. This is in SQL Azure. Managed instance, you could do it without any problem. So you could connect into one database, you could retrieve the data from another database without issues. Also, it's very important in SQL Azure that you are working with UTC. There is not possible to change the UTC, for example, UTC +2, etc. You need to add in your code this to manage the offset. You need that offset. You need to use several actions to manage this UTC. Again, please remember, use sort batches to have you several maintains plan for indexes and statistics. Try to avoid to have a lot of temporal tables, because all the temporal tables, type of variables, cursor are going to directly to the 10 dB. And if you have a lot, you could cause a problem in terms of contention. Okay, it's very important. You could do it, but at the end, if you face something about some performance, it's very important to review that if the width stat is 10 dB. Other things that's very important, is very excited. It's about the rate scale. The rate scale is from premium databases and big cores. Suppose that you have this behavior. Your application update data but read data. You have some reporting services. Okay, so using if you specify in the application item equals read only, and you connect to the server and the database, SQL or the engine, the gateway, will redirect the connection one of the two servers that are running as secondaries. Okay, so in this situation, that means that you are going to have two servers instead one. If you specified read write, all the connection will go to the primary database, sorry, to the primary server. And if you specified it only in premium and because you are going to read the data, you're going to specify read only, all the connection is going through to one of the two replicas that we have. Also, remember that we have failover groups. It's more similar that we have in Always On and Hyperscale. That is very important. Hyperscale is another system that we have that you are able to have databases with more up to 100 of terabytes. So about monitoring, we have a lot of things. Okay, we have SQL auditing. It's more or less the SQL profiler that we have. You could review the queries that you are in the application, etc. So we have also the query data store that you could review what happened and what specific time frame, what is the query that took more time, etc. Also, I'm going to show you in the next slide, in the next session, will be about performance issues. Okay, so let me show you. This is the last slide in this presentation. Okay. Also, I would like to show you several examples. About what happens if you want to have your own performance monitor or you want to connection monitor. Okay, I have these links because I have several articles that I wrote in GitHub that contain several ways to identify how much spend time in order to establish the connection. So I'm going to stop here. I'm going to show you another example about how much the option that you have in order to identify, for example, in C#, how much time took my query on my connection. I'm going to comment this one. Okay, it's very simple. Let me explain before running this. I'm going to connections. So the idea is run a query. Okay, run this query, obtain 200 rows. No, 2,000 rows. Yes, 2,000 rows. Fill the data set, and that's all. So, but please pay attention about these things. The first thing is about the statistics enable. I'm going to change to the value to true. Okay. After run, establish the connection, retrieve the data. Please pay attention that I call this this method. Okay, is retrieve statistics. What happened when I run this one? when I run this one, I'm going to have some details about the statistics of the connection. For example, I'm going to know how many bytes have been received, has been sent, how many rows, and two particular things that it's very interesting when you are profiling your application. It's about execution time and the connection time. Okay, it's how much time took the connection and how much time took the execution of the query. Okay, so also when you are running or when profiling you the connection, please try to use a stopwatch, because this time is just only for the connection and execution. But if you have any other code in your in this method, in this public method, it's very important to know how much time using the stopwatch. Okay, because you could see, okay, the connection execution takes this or took this, but the rest of the logic that I have in my code took this one. Okay, so I'm going to run right now this. Second, something happened with an error. I don't know what happened. It happened. It's the same. That. 1 second. Okay, sorry, it's my fault. Yeah. Okay, as you can see, we have the connection, and this is the results. Also, you have 18 counters, so that means that you have more than the parameters, the values that we have. Okay, just only I show you right now 1, 2, 6 counters of up to 80. Okay, for example, as you could see, the connection times connecting from Spain to West Europe was took 100 milliseconds. The execution of this query took 300 and retrieved this number of the number of bytes and this number of rows. It's very important because all this information you could save in your application log, and you could see how much time took every connection, every execution in order to improve your code. Okay, it's very, very important. I think that's very important for the developer side. So let's go to the presentation, and I'm going to show you a real example, okay, about performance. I was working in, as you know, I'm support and escalation engineer, and I received a call that the customer mentioned that his application is not working well right now, but in the past, without any code change, it took more time than they expect. Okay, they didn't check and they didn't modify any code, they didn't anything, but unexpectedly the performance on the code take more time than so I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to show you what happened in this time. I reproduce this situation because it's very important, okay? Because I would like to show you how to troubleshoot this and how to found performance issues when you are working with Azure. I'm going to this point. Okay, it's ready. Okay. Okay. Unexpectedly, they expect that every time that they run one execution is to retrieve some data. It's very simple. The code, as you could see, the code is here. Okay, it's very simple. It's run account ID from one table, searching one special field. Okay, I promise that this search is indexed, so we have an index, but we have this process. You could see it's not very strange situation. It's normal in this code, but unexpectedly the execution is this. So I'm going to I received the call, and I'm going to the portal. This is the portal. And the first point, I'm going to go to the resource utilization. As you could see, we have 100% all the time in terms of DDU. So DDU is no more than um, um, is the number will be the maximum number of three, or the maximum value of three counters. Okay, if I click here, and I'm going to remove DTU, okay, I'm going to add the metric. The DTU is no more than the maximum value of the CPU or the data IO or the log IO, okay? In this case, as you can see, uh, uh, everything is the DTU, it's the same as the CPU, okay? It seems that something happened in the server, okay? The server, it seems that it's taking 100% all the time. So it's incredible. So what happened? But the customers say, I follow up your instructions about maintain the index, I maintain the indexes, rebuilding the statistics, etc. So I cannot say, okay, I thought that, okay, you have multiple connections at the same time. Okay, so I even click in the new chart, I choose session successful connection, and as you could see, we don't have too much. So we have right now we have in this case we have less one. So come on, it's not a successful connection. If I try to change, for example, workers percentage, as you could see, is no more than one worker is causing this 100%. So for me, it was my surprise because come on, something you have a process that is taking too much time. During our conversation, the customer mentioned, okay, I think that my server is in a healthy state. Please review this. Okay, so once we have this situation, as you could see, I review several things. As you can see in SQL Azure, you have one thing that is called performance overview. Okay, the performance overview after the workload using machine learning, we are going to suggest how, create and drop indexes or create indexes depending on your workload. It's very important to have enabled this option because you could have some improvement based on the in your workload, okay? And also in the query performance inside, this is another table. As you could see, we have one query that is taking around it's a lot. The duration and the execution is too many. It's few connections or few executions to have this time. Okay, so and also it's causing the CPU is very high. So I'm going to click here, and as you could see, this is the query. So something happened in your code that this query is causing this 100%. Okay, so in this case, we review the situation. Also, I connected to the SQL Azure, using SQL Management Studio. I reviewed the database and the table, and I didn't find any relevant. Oh, sorry. I'm going to let's wait to complete the process. So I didn't see that. Okay, it's this query that is taking too much time. We don't have more information, etc. But let me connect to the database. I review the database. Go to the table, performance and varchar, and I found that, okay, you have an index, okay, I have an index for text search, text to search, and I have everything. Also in the columns, we have the normal columns. We have ID and we have search. But one thing that paid my attention is, okay, text to search has varchar. Come on. So, but in the code, as you could see, these customers using Embarcar. Okay, for me it was a surprise because I mentioned to the customer, please, could you please go back to the management studio, go to the query store, and click in the top resource consuming queries. Click in the first one, and as you see, one pay my attention is, okay, we have an index scan. Okay, that's taking is reading is a scan index, so it's reading all the rows that we have, as you could see. So, and also I have a warning here. So come on, this warning means that the following: it's a compare implicit Embarcar to Barcar. Okay, so and also I have a warning that this could impact in the performance of your database. So in this case, I try to explain to our customer. I'm going to copy the query that we have here and explain one thing. I would like to suggest to change the code, okay? But first, let me try to explain what means, what could be the issue, okay? So I'm going to click here in New Query, and I'm going to run this query. I'm going to remove this one, but I'm going to specify here, for example, pass. And also, I'm going to include the actual execution. As you can see right now, the time that it takes is not too much time. And the execution, as you can see, is index 6. So that means that it's searching the data because I have an index here, okay, for this field. Okay, but what happens if this field is Barcar and I'm using Embarcar? To simulate that I'm using Embarcar, Barcar is no more than the code, the field, it's able to save data in Unicode, okay? So I'm going to run again. Let me show you, I think that is better to create a new query, okay? As you can see, it's taking too much time. Oh, sorry. It's taking too much time. And also, in the execution plan, I have other execution plan, okay? Because as you can see, it's reading a scan, and I have the warning, okay? So in this situation, when I review the portal, the performance. Also, I use one dynamic management view that is called, for example, here, sys VM DB resource stats. Also, we have many things in order to review the statistics. As you can see, it's 100% all the time. Okay, you could see every 15 seconds you will have all the information. So I suggest to the customer, okay, could you please stop your application? This parameter, please change to Barcar or change your field to Barcar, but run right now this query or this process. As you can see, this is the difference. Okay, as you can see, it's much better. Okay, because what is the reason? The reason is, or what happened? What is the reason that is not what's not happening at the beginning? Because the customer has just only 100 rows. He was inserting data for around 6 months, and after, when you have a lot of rows combined with this bad execution plan, and the end took the performance, it was very bad. Okay, this is several things. We have multiple things, but I would like to stop here because we have several questions and answer, and we are run of time. But it's very important. Yes, you could scale up the database because it's a standard 0. You could scale up to the maximum level, P15. Okay, and it's clear, but you are going to pay more, but one for unnecessarily. Okay, because if you code the DVA and review every time this query using, for example, query store, or the developer adapt the code with the real data types, follow up the instructions that we mentioned in our slide about the different things, I'm totally sure that you are going to pay for the service that you are going to use. Okay, it's very important. So I think that we could go to the question and answers. If you have any, please.
Great. Yeah, there is only one question here, which is around, can you explain the Windows authentication slide again?
Yes. Yes, sure. So let me explain with an example, okay? In SQL Azure, right now, as you can see, in SQL Azure, you have these methodologies of authentication. You have Windows authentication, okay? And you have SQL Server, okay? But in SQL Azure, you are going to have a new authentication. In SQL Azure, you are not able to use Windows authentication, okay? But as you know, to use Windows authentication, you need to have an Active Directory, okay? So if you want to use SQL Azure using the user that you have in your Active Directory, we have one option. It's I don't remember exactly what is the name, but synchronize every X minutes. Synchronize your account that you have in your Active Directory to the Azure Active Directory. So what that mean? That means that, for example, if I want to use as you can see, my email or my Azure Active Directory to connect to this server, I could use the integrated, okay? As you can see, in the normal way that you're using in your Windows authentication, okay? Or I could use the password in the similar way. I need to specify here my email, okay, and my password, or I could use another thing that is called MFA. MFA is multi-factor authentication. That means that every time that I click connect, I'm going to receive a text message or call in order to reach the server, okay, to connect the server, okay. This is the most important thing in terms of connection, okay, is right now you are not able to use Windows authentication. You need to use the new option that we have, but this option that we have is based in the Azure Active Directory. I don't know we have any other questions about Windows authentication or this
Yeah. I have some more questions here. So the next question is around temp tables as in hash my table, or temporal tables as in create with system versioning equal to on. So
yes. Yes, in SQL Azure, we have the system versioning, okay? Because we thought you could enable or disable this, okay? But we consider the versioning as a very good example, versioning to try to avoid the kind of problems. But if you disable the system versioning, you could have, as I mentioned, with temporal tables, you could have this this problem in terms of contention. Also, I think that we have raised status. I don't remember is this.
So
Sorry.
just Jose, there was another
Yes.
question related to
Yes.
the same. So the
Yes.
question was it a typo? Is it a temporary tables or is it temporal tables?
Okay, temporal tables. Yes, it's sorry, I mentioned temporal tables when you create a table in order to save something and delete this. Not the temporal tables. That's mean to have and track about the changes that you made. No, it's temporal table. I mean that when you create tables that you delete after some specific process.
Okay, so it's temporary tables, yeah.
Yes, temporary table. Yes.
And there was a last question is around, does SQL Server managed instance will replace SQL PaaS database or infrastructure as a service one? What is the way forward? That's the last question.
It's a amazing question. It's amazing questions. The answer is yes and no. Yes, because I have other, I'm not able to, I have other presentation about what is the difference between SQL Azure and Managed Instance. Managed Instance means that you have more options. Okay, you have more options to manage the instance. You are able to have 100 databases. Okay, and it's more compatible with on-premise. Okay, and SQL Azure have some, let's say, limitation. But if you are using just only one database for your business, okay, and just only in one database you can manage your database, SQL Azure is the best for you because you have high ability, you have the backup, you could scale up, scale down automatically when you need something or we need more performance. You have the threat detection in order to, if someone try to get access to your database, etc. You have a service that if you need just only one database, it's totally not for you, or one database per customer. Okay, so you could choose vCores, you could choose DTUs, and that's all. What is Managed Instance? Managed Instance is more than
Sorry,
if you want.
Jose, like I
Yes.
think given the
Yes.
time we have got, I
Okay,
think
sorry.
there are one more question in there, but what we
Yes.
will do is probably we will just send the responses to those questions at the
Okay.
time we notify the
Okay.
attendees. So can we just jump on to the slides for me,
Yes.
please? Thank you. And that was a great presentation because I
Thank you so much.
personally learned a lot.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. For me, I'm very happy with this. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm not seeing your slides, the slides yet.
Okay.
I'm still
1
on the
second.
SQL
Yes. Yes. 1
Management Studio
second.
screen.
Yes. 1 second. Yep. Questions? Okay.
Yeah, the next one. So thanks, Jose, for a great session. And coming up next is from Power BI to Power AI. How do you enrich your business intelligence by Marcus? And next slide, please.
Yes.
Great. And thanks everyone for attending the session. And if you want to learn more from Jose, like his details are available here, his Twitter as well as his email. And as I mentioned before, like the questions that hasn't been answered, like we will get the answers from Jose and email that to you. So you will be getting the responses for them. And the final slide. Great. And thanks for PASS for providing the opportunity for running 24 hours of PASS as well as to the sponsors.